Hello. Today I want to talk about why I am anti-diet. There's a lot of misconceptions about what that means. Does that mean you're anti-health? Does that mean that you are anti-people who diet? And at its core, it's being anti-diet culture. So the culture created that perpetuates the idea that our bodies, that we are not good enough, and that we need to buy into these products, these programs to change our body, to fix what is wrong with us. And so if you're someone who likes to diet, wants to diet, there's nothing wrong with that. Makes a whole lot of sense. And I like to share this information because I think when we understand more about this stuff, we become more empowered. We can make decisions that are more aligned with what we are wanting. And so it's information, and a lot of what I share is just alternatives to diet culture. Maybe not alternatives, but a different way of existing. Because alternative kind of makes it seem like diet culture is the main thing we all do, which it sort of is, but I want to try to not normalize that any further. So some of the main reasons that I'm anti-diet is the harm that it does. So not only the things that drive it, which are fat phobia and racism, racism, which then led to fat phobia, which has led to diet culture. And so this idea that thinness, whiteness is the ideal, and that we must always be working towards that to be enough, to be accepted, to have the life we want. And so those ideals are really harmful, and they don't promote health. So if that's what we're worried about when it comes to dieting and weight loss, our kind of norm currently doesn't actually promote a lot of health. And so that's something to think on. If we're trying to diet, if we're trying to lose weight, is it really for health, or is it for thinness? Which, again, whatever it is, it's okay. It makes sense. And so dieting itself is not only harmful because of the beliefs that drive it, but because of what it actually does. And so I just want to share some kind of information with you about diet culture and diets. So globally, 85% of women have, whether it's regularly or occasionally, have shared that they have turned down opportunities because they don't feel good about their body. 57% of 11 to 16-year-olds regularly worry about how they look. And then we have the average person will go on 126 fad diets, whether they're, most often there's a variety in there, but it's trying the same fad diet over and over again or restarting it. So they'll try 126 fad diets in their lifetime. And the diet industry is worth over $72 billion. So they're making a lot of money off of these insecurities and the failure of these diets. And that has been proven because 95 to 98% of diets fail. So that means that 95 to 98% of people who go on a diet will regain the weight they lost in 2 to 5 years. And people often gain additional weight as well. And this has to do with our body's response to perceived famine and set point weight, which is a whole other story, that our body kind of tries to protect itself. Our body does not like to lose weight, does not like it. And so when we go on a diet, when we restrict, it perceives this sort of famine. We have this famine response. And so when we go off the diet or try to return to whatever we consider like our normal is, or our new normal, whatever we're trying to create, it changes, and our body puts that weight back on, plus some, to protect itself for the next famine. Because even though it's not an actual famine, the body doesn't know the difference. It cannot tell the difference between an actual famine and what fad diets, dieting, intentional weight loss does mentally, and then our body responds to that. And so not only so diets fail, but then we also have, when we're on a diet and after diet, but especially when we're on diets, there's some really negative side effects. So lower mood, it can decrease our body image. It can slow down our metabolism. We become preoccupied with food. We very much so disrupt our internal cues, not just hunger and fullness cues. But when we diet, it changes our hormones, especially if there's a lot more stress when we're dieting. So it changes a lot of internal cues. It increases the risk of disordered eating and eating disorder. A lot of eating disorders not are caused by dieting, but can be then triggered by dieting, and what that does. But it can also lead to injuries and nutrient deficiencies. And again, increased stress. And that increased stress produces stress hormones, which, when those build up in the body over time, are also not good. And so when we take a look at all of this and the high failure rate of diets, and that they don't actually show an improvement in health, they can actually decrease our overall health even if we do lose weight. So they're not really about health. And the diet industry, diet culture, all of that denies, pretends to not know, but it feeds off of this, that body diversity is natural. It is normal, it is natural, it is genetic. And there's plenty of research that shows that it is coded in our genes. So we know that body diversity is natural. We know that diets fail 95 to 98% of the time. We know that they can increase adverse health outcomes, increase stress, slower metabolism, preoccupation with food, lower body image, all of these things. And something that needs to be done in another video, but I want to mention here, is that there are 0 health conditions that affect only people in larger bodies. There's 0. Absolutely 0. Research shows that it's not body size, but the same things, the same health conditions that we attribute to being a cause of being fat, a result of being fat, can be caused by anybody, or can occur in anybody, no matter their body size, with a sedentary lifestyle and poor nutrition. Now, this is very simplistic. This doesn't take into account access to care. This does not take into account environment, air pollution, both outdoor and indoor, and all these other things. But these health conditions are not isolated to being fat. And again, that's a whole other topic. But we know all of these things about dieting and diet culture, intentional weight loss. Yet it's still promoted for health, or we still hold beliefs around weight stigma and fat phobia that to be healthy, you have to be a smaller size, no matter what you do. And that's why it's so harmful, because it's not even about health. It is so normalized that we have come to believe, because we were taught, that it is about health, and that anytime someone isn't thin, they're not healthy, it's their fault, they can control it, why aren't they doing something about it? And so if dieting doesn't work, if intentional weight loss doesn't work, then what do we do? Because it's a scary idea for a lot of us, because dieting and weight loss gives us this hope of like, I will at one point be thin, and then I will be, and then things will look this way, and then this will happen. And obviously for those who are in larger bodies, like, weight loss is much more complicated than that, because fat phobia is real, and so they get denied access to care. They are treated absolutely horrible in instances. They are oppressed. There's stigma towards them. And so that's, it's not the same in those situations. And so if dieting and intentional weight loss aren't the answer, then what is? And the short answer is it's very individualized. If health is your priority, which it's not for everybody, and it doesn't have to be. Health is, especially here in America, and I say that because that's where I am, there's a lot of healthism, and that health is the marker of success in life, of doing things right, whatever those stories are, which isn't true. So no one owes health. Health looks different for everybody. I myself, as someone with autoimmune disease, technically will never be considered healthy. But I have my own definition of what health means for me. And so if we value health, there are things like finding movement that works for our body, intuitive eating, stress reduction, a whole list of things that we can do. And again, this is limited in what I'm saying, because there's always environmental factors, systemic oppression, those things come into play. And when we're talking about health, these need to be the topics: the systemic oppression and environment. All of those things play a role, because it doesn't matter how much we do as individuals. If we're someone who is oppressed, it's going to be difficult, maybe very limited in what we can actually do. And so those are the things, if health is a priority, as well as unlearning fat phobia and making peace with our body, and making peace with knowing that we're worthy, no matter what our body looks like, no matter what our health is, no matter our ability. And then if health isn't our priority, if it's not a value of ours, the work is more, continuously focused on unlearning diet culture, unlearning fat phobia, claiming our inherent worth. that work gets done in both instances. But if we don't value health, like, it's those things, and we live our life. So that's diet culture kind of summed up. There's a lot to it because it's everywhere, it's ingrained everywhere. And that's what kind of turns, I think, a lot of us away. Is it's not as clear cut as diet and lose weight, exercise and lose weight, and you'll be healthy. Health is much more individualized. There are a lot of both personal and societal factors that influence it, and sometimes that can feel overwhelming. And so for those who do value that and want to exist in a way that feels more aligned, that feels like it actually matches up with your values and what you're wanting, there's a lot of information out there, and so take it one thing at a time, and it's a journey. There's no timeline that you're on.